Hey there, this is children's book author illustrator Brian Lees. You may know my work from my bat books, Bats at the Beach, Bats at the Library, and so on, or from my 2019 Caldecott Honor book, The Rough Patch. Today I'm going to be doing a drawing demonstration that's actually different from the work that I typically do. It's based on something from Malcolm at Midnight, a book by W.H. Beck that I illustrated in 2012. If you haven't read this one, I strongly recommend it. It's a fantastic family read-aloud, as well as just a great individual read-aloud for anybody from maybe 3rd through 7th grade. This book has black and white illustrations on the inside, which is different from what I mostly do nowadays. And there's an illustration from the inside of the book as it was printed. Here is one of the illustrations from the sequel of this book called Malcolm Under the Stars. This is done with pencil and powdered graphite. Another illustration here is this one, also with the pencil and powdered graphite. And this is the technique that I'm going to be demonstrating today. The neat thing about this is you can get really nice lights and darks. There's another piece. And it's a tremendously forgiving medium. It's basically a pencil drawing with shades rubbed in. So this is the illustration that I'm going to basically duplicate today. It's an owl named Beert, B-E-E-R-T, and this is what the final illustration looked like. Now to do this, the materials I'm going to use are powdered graphite, and I use stuff that I get in a jar from art supply stores online. If you don't have this, you can get a pencil and a piece of paper, and you can scrape your own. There's a soft pencil and an X-Acto blade, and what I'm just doing is scraping at it until I get a lot of powdered dust. And you collect this stuff up. You got to be careful with it because it is really, really messy. But that is what we're going to be using basically to do the drawing. I'm also going to be using a variety of erasers. You can use a regular old eraser of any type. A kneaded eraser is really nice because apart from being fun to mess with, you can also shape it into specific shapes. So you can make a nice little fin like that and make tiny, tiny marks of erasing on the drawing. You can also use any ordinary thing. If you don't have fancy art supplies at home, a regular pencil eraser is going to do just fine. It's also a good thing to have a little piece of cloth, and this is a piece of chamois cloth. I get mine from an auto parts store. It comes in a big sheet like that. What I like to do is just cut off a small piece, and then I can wrap it around my finger. I can dip it into the powdered graphite and rub it onto the pencil or to the paper. That way I'm not getting my fingers all messy, although you can see that it does get messy. So the first thing that I need to do this illustration is a base drawing. So I've got a drawing that I've done of the main character here for this piece, Beert the owl. It's pretty much exactly what I want the final illustration to look like without all of the tone over the top of it. And then I have a piece of tracing paper or vellum. The nice thing about using vellum is that you can see I can put it over the top of my base drawing, and you can see it really, really clearly through. The other nice thing about this vellum is that it is thicker than usual tracing paper, so it can take a lot of wear. It can take a lot of erasing and drawing, and it doesn't tear. I'm going to be using a variety of pencils. You can use whatever you find at home. It's nice if you have something that's kind of soft, something that's kind of hard, because you'll get different darkness depending on what the pencil is like. Now the first thing that I'm going to do here is to start working on actually tracing my underlying drawing. This is also kind of strange for me because I am normally not talking while I'm actually doing my work. So there I'm drawing the beak of this owl named Beert. I'm going to come in and do some drawing around his eye and leave much of that shiny like that. A couple of radiating pieces of fur like that. Not fur, feathers. Okay, so now I've got the basic drawing redrawn onto the vellum. Now I'll take the powdered graphite, I will take a piece of chamois cloth and wrap it around my finger and dip it in just a little bit and tap off most of it, because this stuff gets really messy really fast. And then what I can do is just come in, see how quickly that will darken up an area. So just brushing with my finger. And this stuff is really forgiving. If you make a mistake on the vellum, you can just go back and darken things in. So you can see how quickly I've built up a little bit of a tone, maybe a little bit more on the breast of the bird, and then on the wing coming down here. I'm not going to try to reproduce the entire drawing, just to give you a sense of what this technique is like. Now, in the original illustration that I did, you can see there's a lot of background tone around Beert's face, really sort of pops the white of his face. And something that I'll often do is actually just take a piece of paper and use it as a mask. So I can mask off an area that I don't want to get graphite on. Dip a little bit more of that here. Shake some of that off. Okay, and then come in like this. And you can see how messy that looks right there, but look what happens when I take it away. Suddenly you've got this nice edge like that. And I can come in and block this part off and bring some of that down this way, and then do the same thing over here. Now if I've got a clear edge, I can just sort of run along it like that if I want to. But there you can see how much that's made the owl's face pop. Want to do the same thing up over the top. Now, a lot of drawing videos I see people are drawing, keeping the drawing in exactly the same position. I always turn my work while I'm working on it. So time lapse would look kind of weird because the thing would be jerking around all over the place. If you want to turn your paper around, absolutely do it. I almost never do a drawing holding the paper the same way through the whole drawing. Okay, so it's going to be a little dark there. And some more across the top of Beert's head. And some more over here. And, you know, here all I'm going to do is just run along the side. But you see now I've got parallel marks to the head, and sometimes that looks weird. It's not something that you want. But I can go back through like this and darken it up. So now there's what we've got. And you can see it really has popped the bird's head. I may want to go in with an eraser a little bit. And so I'm taking the kneaded eraser, and I'm just going to start making some marks right around there. I'm just sort of touching it. I know I'm kind of blocking it with my hand, but you can see what's left over. It makes these nice little marks like that. Now, if I take the base drawing away from that, flip that over so you only see what we're working on here, you can see that some of the areas are have less contrast than in the final illustration. Another thing you can do is also take a paintbrush. You still want to dab off most of the powdered graphite, but you can go in and do some shading with a paintbrush as well. So that's a way you can come into some fine areas, like inside Beert's mouth, and a little bit of shading under his beak, like that. Now, come back in with a darker pencil. This one is a 6B, so it's going to be really soft. And I can come in and darken around his eye, and darken this eye more. bit more in the places that I want to have a lot of contrast. Some marks for the flecks of the feathers on his breast. Maybe darken this line up a little bit, more contrast. And then in the original illustration, you can see that I also did some hash marks. It's supposed to be a piece of particle board behind Beard's face. So, you know, your own creativity is really the guide to what you do here. You can spend a lot of time adding stuff to it. You can take the eraser. Here I'm going to take just a regular pencil eraser. And, you know, if you wanted to have a kind of a sense of radiating light coming from the bird, you can just cut in like that. You do have to sometimes wipe off your eraser because it picks up too much graphite on it. But there's really no end to the kinds of marks that you can make with this, and it's a really, really quick way of creating lights and darks and shadows in your drawings quickly. So give it a try. Hope you enjoy it. If you do drawings and want to send them in, I'll try to figure out a way to get you to share stuff. That'd be really neat to see what you can do with this technique. But again, shout out to Michelle Riggs and her sons. Hope you enjoy Malcolm at Midnight and Malcolm Under the Stars, and good luck with your drawing.